and that's how I practiced my first speech. Nothing was written down. There was no outline. I had no idea what I was going to talk about. But I'm going to do some really important things. I'm going to train my brain, no matter what, to keep talking, even if I don't have a real clear idea of what I want to talk about. It's a huge, valuable learning experience for public speaking and a public speaking training. Whatever you do when you practice is what you will learn. So you can practice a lot in sort of like with a bad technique and a bad strategy, and you can actually get worse at public speaking, and you can make yourself even more anxious and more nervous from how you're practicing. So it's really important that you try all these practice strategies that I'm going to present to you throughout this session, because they're designed to help you feel more comfortable, more confident, and to decrease your nerves. And if you're saying, this is how I normally practice and prepare for my speeches, I still want you to try this other way. And I realize it's hard to try another way because you don't know this outcome from trying a new way. So that's sort of scary in itself. But you'll start realizing what's going on at home while you're practicing. So again, that first practice, I still try to have eye contact. I had a question which allowed me to pause, which is good for your speech and is part of your first criteria. And I had a prop. After I practice my first time, I'm going to leave my sort of stage area and go sit down like I would in a regular classroom. I want you at home to practice exactly like you're in a classroom. Don't practice in front of a mirror. Don't practice in the car. Just practice in this sort of venue. So I'm going to be sitting down, and then I'm going to practice maybe 5 times today. Not a lot, just 5 times. I'm going to sit down, and again, I'm going to say, here's my second practice. I'm going to come walking up like this, like I'm walking into a classroom, even though I might be in my bedroom. And I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to visualize the classroom and visualize classmates. Because visualizing classmates might make you a little nervous, which is good. You want to try to represent what's realistic at that point. And then you're going to start your speech again. Still, nothing's written down. I'm going to still go for trash here. All right? I'm thinking whether I like that speech point. But here's my second practice. You should never trash any type of mistakes or negative experiences. A lot of times people wish they could erase some of their experiences and failures from their mind, but I would say you could erase maybe the whole word failure, because maybe the word failure doesn't really exist. Maybe the word failure is just a perception that you have. And so if you take a learning experience, if you were going to go even to do public speaking, you could perceive that you could fail, or you could perceive there is no such thing as failure, and you could perceive every time I get up to speak, it will be a learning experience. Every time I take another class, or take a test, or meet a new person, it will be a learning experience. It sort of takes away the judgment of how well you will do. It's sort of like, I'm here just to learn and to grow as a person and to improve myself as a person. So there is nothing for me to trash here. I mean, really, there's no trash. If you can have a perception that this is all a learning, growing experience that you're going through. And that's why I would say there's never a reason to trash any of your perceptions of making mistakes or what you might perceive to be a failure. And I'm going to sit down. Now, you might have noticed that was a very different speech, right? That was not sort of word for word like the last speech, but it was sort of in the same ballpark, and the speech point changed a little bit. All of this at the beginning is fine. I'm training myself to keep talking no matter what, and I'm going to just keep doing this type of speech practice. And every time I come up without having anything written down and I start to talk, things will keep changing naturally. Okay? If you continue like this for 30 or more times, your speech will evolve into something really presentable. And that's an interesting experience to watch it evolve. And you might think, oh, I liked what I said the first time. Don't grab onto anything that you liked or disliked. I don't want to say that. I want to say that don't grab onto anything. That's all judgments, and those are all perceptions. What you really want is to be as natural as possible and to feel as comfortable as possible given a speech. And you also want to feel like you really know what you're talking about. So as I keep doing this type of speech practice enough times, I'm going to have a really good sense of what I want to talk about, even though the day I come to class, it might come off a little different than any of my 30 other times I practice. And that's actually okay. And that's actually great. Because there is no messing up. Messing up would mean you had something really specific in an order if you wanted to say something and somehow you didn't say it, so you perceived that to be you messed up. Right? So these are all your own judgments, and your own judgments create your own stress level. Right? If you change your perception of what you're trying to accomplish here, you would change your stress level. Okay? If you had the perception there is no mistakes, there is no I forgot. Sometimes I hear students say, I'm bummed out because I forgot to say this. Then that means to me, you didn't follow the practice strategies. Okay? There is no forgetting in this style of practice strategies because it could be a different speech every time you practice. You could have same speech point, or the speech point might evolve into a really specific solid speech point, but that story is very malleable. Okay? Does that make sense? All right? So absolutely do not write anything down for a speech, for your practice. Don't write an outline. Don't have an idea of what you must say or have to say or the story you want to tell. Give it all up and just practice enough times that you know what you can talk about. And never, never stop speaking when you start your speech. Never stop. Okay? It's a big problem that I've noticed when people are doing a speech, that you can tell that they've practiced stopping and starting over because it happens sometimes in the speech. They'll sound like everything's fine, and all of a sudden they'll go, can I start over? And everybody in the audience is like, what? Everything seemed fine, and something seemed a little off with the person speaking, and they wanted to start over. That means they trained themselves that was okay. So in real public speaking, it's not okay to ask the audience to start over. So you never want to practice something at home that you would not want to do or be able to do in public. Okay? All right. So that's how I'm going to try to help you be as comfortable as possible, but you'll really need to practice the practice strategies. The other part of these practice strategies is asking you to only practice maybe 6 times a day, really short practices, and then wait and practice another day. So I want you to extend your practices to like 5 days. Okay? So if you practice 6 times a day and you practice 5 days, how many times have you practiced? 30. The other thing you don't know yet is your speeches are incredibly short, like mine was really short. Your speeches, well, your first speech needs to be 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes, really short. So let's say, easy math, your speech is 2 minutes that you're usually practicing. You practice 2 minutes 6 times one day. How long do you practice?
12 minutes.
You're going to practice 12 minutes a day for 5 days. How long do you practice?
An hour.
An hour. Okay. So I haven't asked you to do massive hours of practice, but I'm asking you to spread out your practice. If you have the chance, it's even better if you skip a day. Because they say for brain training, if you skip a day and forget some stuff and then practice again, it actually helps the brain to go sort of understand what you're trying to learn or to say. Okay? by having it sort of to do it again after a break. So sometimes when students sort of try to do all their practice, a whole lot of practice the day before or 2 days before, they're the most nervous up here. Because now it's sort of like they're trying to say something the right way and not to forget something. That's going to just increase your stress level in a huge way. Okay? So instead, I want you to just jump in there, start really early. I want you to go ahead and look at the speech criteria that's in your packet. So we need our packets. And just stand up and just like think of a prop and just stand up and do what I did, and just don't think about how do I make this a perfect speech. Just start practicing a speech. And just trust the system that it will evolve into a really good speech, and you'll be fine. After you practice 5, 6 days, 30 times, you'll be fine. And I want you to see what that's like. Okay?